rank and rent. This is a question I always get. Do you think it's saturated, bro?
I'm too late. It's 2023.
I should have jumped in earlier. Yeah, you should have. But do you think rank and rent is saturated? By the way, James and I, for everyone watching this, I didn't call him before and say, dude, you need to answer these. If you disagree or have a different opinion, I think it's great. I'm not trying to tee him up and he has to, hit it out of the park. I'm just asking, like, if we were sitting there having a drink, what is your honest thoughts? Is it saturated?
It's not saturated at all. Actually, I just think you have to get smart at picking niches, right? And what I like to do, we run a lot of case studies, so we launch different sites. And one of the things actually that we launched recently is a concrete site in the Orlando area, and we were already getting leads, right? And this was a niche that a light bulb went off actually from you, and I was like, let's just test this niche out. Let's just throw up a site. Let's get a verified listing. Again, I don't use paid advertisement anymore. I know that's one of the things that you teach, and I think it's genius. People should do that if you can leverage that skill. Definitely, we're just leveraging organic SEO, and I want to get the data back because I teach SEO as well. So we're just looking at, all right, we're going to implement our SEO techniques. Let's see what happens, and boom, we're already getting leads. So it's definitely not saturated, right? It's just picking the right niche.
I'm always like saying, if you want to prove me wrong or test this out, just as kind of like a pulse check, go and ask 10 people, even business people, like, hey, do you know what rank and rent is? Or do you know what local lead gen, or whatever the term you want to use? And 9 out of 10 are going to say, what are you talking about? What? Rank and rent? And it's like, what? You don't know what that is? And then you go, okay, let me explain it. And you go, okay, imagine you build these simple little websites, you rank them on Google because you're in small cities or relatively small cities in most cases. It doesn't take a lot. You're in non-competitive niches and you're going to make 80, 90+% profit, and it's all on autopilot. It's not 100% passive, but it's pretty semi-passive. And you tell those same 10 people, every single one of them is going to go, dude, that's really smart. That's a really smart business model. So that tells me, okay, if you said to 10 people today, do you know what drop shipping is? Dude, everybody knows what drop shipping is. I think you could argue drop shipping saturated. Right?
Yeah, I do not. Of course, you can make money in drop shipping. It's not something that I would say is easy because of the saturation, and just you have less control. You definitely have less control.
That's the biggest piece, dude. I think, in my opinion, there's so many of these boxes that rank and rent checks, right? Like it's online, obviously. It's scalable, recurring, low barrier to entry. Doesn't cost a lot to spin up a site, especially if you're doing the pre-selling method and you know how to run ads. You can get literally a couple $100, land a client, boom, they're paying for the whole thing. But out of all those things, the piece that is the most sexy and the most attractive is the fact that you have control, that it is asset based. Do you think there's going to be a saturation point?
I don't think so. I just think there's too many niches if you're smart about it, again, and learn from others. One of the mistakes I've made is I went into very competitive niches. And also, I'm from New York, so I was also in that area. I'm actually ranking on page 1 for like roofing and like in a very competitive area. So if I can do that, you start taking whatever you implemented on that and you do it in something like a small city somewhere, it's a joke,
Totally.
It's a joke.
You took the words out of my mouth. I've said that exact verbatim. People don't understand what we're talking about. I think the problem is we don't know what rank and rent is. We hear about it from one of your videos, one of my videos, podcast interview. We're like, oh, cool. And then they start going on the internet. And then all of a sudden YouTube's feeding them this content and they get into a couple of groups and maybe they buy a program and all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, everyone's doing it. Dude, we're talking about this tiny corner of the internet of like, I can't imagine it's got to be less than 50,000 people. I mean, I'm just thinking about some of the groups it's nothing, dude, compared to the amount of businesses and how many businesses are coming online. How many niches have we not, dude? I'm making $1,500 a month in cactus removal right now. And I have been for 3 years. It's like, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Stuff like that you would never really even think of. I mean, that's just a smarter way to approach it, right? Don't jump into roofing. It's funny too. I'll say it, don't go into roofing. And what do people do? They jump into roofing. And it's like, I'm not saying there's no money there, but you're just doing yourself no good by jumping into something so competitive. Because especially with my approach with the organic SEO, I know you're not ranking for roofing terms in a major city overnight. You're just not. And if you could, I would love to see that. But the truth is you're not. So cactus removal, it's like, I would never even think of that. But if you could start throw a site up, you probably rank it within a month or something like that. I'm just guessing.
In big cities too.
Yeah. And boom, you're getting calls now. And then you just, right from there, really the skill of sales.